Hi, everybody. Happy March. Happy Irish month. Hope everybody's doing well. Beth will be here in just a moment.
I'm fighting with honey.
Fighting with honey because she's still coughing. You didn't have to do that for emphasis.
I didn't plan on it.
But yes. Third episode in a row, you will probably be treated to Beth packing. So...
Oh, my glory. Chris is sick of this. I'm sick of it.
Whoop. Honey, because she's still coughing. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. We don't need that kind of reverb going on. But anyways, hope that you all are doing well and hope you're enjoying this slightly warmer weather that's coming around this time of year. This is going to be a busy month for us. It already is a busy month. We had a haunted dinner last Friday, which was a lot of fun. Just a sold-out event there over at Patrick Henry's, where we got to talk about one of our favorite subjects that's not Richmond ghosts. It's not ghosts in Richmond. It is Haunted Ireland. So we got to chat up some of our favorite Irish spirits and legends with some folks that came on by and enjoyed a tasty meal over at Patrick Henry's. So we started there. This coming weekend, Saturday, Sunday, we will have a tent at the Churchill Irish Festival. So hope that you can come and see us there this weekend. But if not, no worries. We got tours going on. Tours are certainly... well, they never stop. They feel like they're ramping up a little bit. We got a lot going on this month on the tour front, and we'll talk to you again before the other event that we got going on this month. We'll be back in 2 weeks for that.
For Haunted Ireland.
Our another Haunted Ireland episode we will have in 2 weeks from now, but that'll be right before the GalaxyCon. We will be at GalaxyCon all 4 days of it this year, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We will have a vendor booth on the floor, and we will have panels on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday evening. So, yeah, we will be there that whole time. So hopefully you can come see us on a tour at the Churchill Irish Festival, at GalaxyCon. We'll be all over the place, and hope that, again, you can come on out and see us. But in the meantime, we are going to go ahead and check another state off the list tonight. Tonight we have Haunted Texas for you. Now, we have been to Texas. Well, I've literally been to Texas a few times, but metaphorically we have been to Texas. I've been there for day job business. And we will be going there for Haunts business next January, but we're getting ahead of ourselves there. In any case... we've talked about it on previous episodes before. It's a big state. There's a lot of stories there. So if you've joined us before on some of our other episodes, some of the things you will not hear about tonight, because we have talked about them on previous episodes, is the Governor's Mansion, which we talked about in our Haunted Executive Mansions episode a couple of years ago. We talked about Six Flags over Texas on Haunted Amusement Parks. We have the Haunted Portrait of Bernardo de Galvez, which was Haunted Objects. And then we have White Rock Lake, which we featured in Eerie Paddles. Hell's Gates, a Haunted Railroad Trestle, was on our Gates to Hell episode. And we have the Seawall Walmart that in Galveston that we talked about on our Haunted Shopping episode. So yeah, lots of stuff that we've talked about in Texas, but Texas, again, is a big state, lots of haunted stuff there, and with everything that we've covered and what we're going to cover tonight, we're still just scratching the surface of the haunts that Texas has to offer.
Texas is big.
Yep. So
can I just say the cryptids alone that I started to go down and didn't cover them all, by the way? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of cryptids to talk about. So, we have a bit to cover tonight. We're almost going to start like it's half like Haunted Houston, and then we'll bounce around to the rest of the state, because we got several stories from Houston alone, and then we'll go ahead and feature some other stuff.
And Patrick, we got a haunted zoo.
Yes.
That's for you.
But any questions before we dive in?
Everybody's just telling me, please get better. And I just basically announced I'd like to revoke my 2025 subscription. I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah. So cheers, everybody.
Yes, cheers. And Beverly says hi. It was good to see her at the haunted dinner. Hi, buddy. You brought us sushi.
Yeah, so glad you could join us for that, Beverly. I'm sorry that I didn't get to say good night at the end of the evening, but so glad to have you there. Appreciate you coming on out and supporting us, and hope that you enjoyed the event as much as we did.
You have sushi down there before.
I have a sushi.
Yes. The favorite toy right
Mr.
now.
Nico loves his sushi.
It is the favorite toss toy right now.
Yeah. So, how about we go ahead and get things started here?
Go ahead.
Should we dive in?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm reading comments.
Yep. We are going to, again, we're going to start Houston. And lots of ghost stories in Houston.
Quick question.
Yes.
Do we have friends in Portsmouth, Texas?
Portsmouth, Texas.
With ghost tours. Patrick wants to know who's going there.
We'd
have to look it up. I think Patrick in our group to see if we have any members.
I don't think that we have members from Portsmouth.
I know we do in Galveston.
In Galveston, yes. I can check with our friends in Galveston if they know anybody
or
in
can
Portsmouth.
recommend.
Yeah, or can recommend. So we will get back to you on that. Might take a little bit of research, but nothing off the top of our head. So, good question. Always feel free to ask that.
Yes.
We love getting questions about
other ghost tours,
spooky stuff across the country, because we love being able to give a shout out to our other locally owned and operated ghost tours across the country. So,
sorry, Patrick corrected. Portsmouth, Virginia.
Portsmouth, Virginia. I don't think that there's a tour there.
No, I don't think there is.
But
well, let us look. But I don't think there's an operating tour.
No, not that I'm familiar with. But we will look and we will get back to you on that.
Yes.
So, but any other questions?
Nope, that was it.
Okay.
Sorry for the confusion.
No, yeah.
I assume Texas.
It happens.
Because
we were talking Texas. It's all good.
Patrick's very happy for a haunted zoo.
Well, before we get to the haunted zoo, we are going to start with a very popular bar in Houston, reminiscent of something that you might find actually in like the French Quarter of New Orleans. This place was built by Nathaniel Kellum back in 1847, and it operated as a bakery called the Kennedy Bakery. Today, it is operated as a bar known as Le Carafe, which sounds actually more like a bit of
a wine.
Wine
holder.
Wine, or maybe even coffee, but very popular bar.
Yes.
So, the original wooden building was lost in a fire, and the brick structure that resides there today was built in 1860. Later, the location would also host a drugstore and a hair salon before it became Le Carafe in the 1960s. Located at 813 Congress, the building became an official Texas Historic Landmark in 1979. The ambiance of Le Carafe only adds to its mystique. The inside of the bar is dimly lit with mostly candles, while the old brick solidifies the feeling of being in a place littered with the spirits of another time. Then there are the unexplained occurrences. The cash register is known to open and close on a whim, and while it might be quite old, the frequency of the event makes many ask who is actually opening the till. Some believe that a former bartender named Carl Truska is who's haunting the place. Carl passed away in 1990. He likes to play tricks on women, both employees and patrons, and is known to knock over wine glasses from time to time. Folks often hear an eerie voice shout out, "Last call," at strange times. People have also reported seeing him staring out the windows after the bar is closed. On a different, perhaps more amusing note, many people have complained of having to wait forever for a bathroom that ends up being empty or having someone brush up against them in the tiny one-room stalls. Then there is the ghost of Pamela Mann, who is said to push pretty women down the stairs. Kind of rude.
Yeah.
Pamela ran a boarding house called the Mansion House, which may have been less of a boarding house and more of a place for paid affections. Bar employees think that the seemingly bitter nature of her spirit has kept her from crossing over to the other side. Upstairs houses another, much more playful and much less malevolent spirit, as many bartenders have reported hearing the sounds of a child playing, often with a ball that bounces across the floor. All of this makes Le Carafe a great place to start an evening of spooky bar hopping at the heart of Houston.
Yeah, so we have Vincent up here, and Nico just jumped on my lap.
So, the two gaping voids in your video screen.
Yes.
Because that's exactly what they look like in this light.
Yep.
The voids.
Oh, and Kurt's getting them both.
All right, so
I've been abandoned.
So we're going to stick to Houston. Are you up for reading tonight?
I will see if I can get through a couple of these and help you.
All right. So
we're going to stick to Houston and we move on to the Rice Hotel, also now known as the Rice Lofts. This building has a history that is tumultuous as the city of Houston itself. Many guests coming and going over the years, and some of them apparently decided to stay on. The land the building was on is the original site for the Texas Capitol building that was there between 1837 and 1839. However, when Austin became the new Republic capital in 1839, the building lay vacant until 1881, and then it was razed and a new building was built. Do we have opinions on your father's drink?
There's all kinds of opinions. Anyways, yes.
Eventually, Rice University founder William Marsh Rice bought it and created the Rice Hotel. Then Texas politician Jesse Jones bought it, and it created the 17-story building that we have today. Mr. Jones kept the name and transformed it into the most luxurious hotel in all of the Lone Star State. And in 1922, the cafeteria became the first public room in the state to have air conditioning. In the 1940s, it was the first hotel in the city to have fluorescent lights. Go for it.
Okay. Many politicians and celebrities stayed at the state-of-the-art hotel, including Shirley Temple, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Mick Jagger, Richard Nixon, and John F. Kennedy. All right, you're done for tonight.
I tried.
It would be the last place Kennedy would ever stay. The president stayed here with his wife Jackie on November 21st, 1963. The next day, he took his infamous car ride in Dallas, where he would be assassinated. Some say his spirit still haunts his room, as many feel a presence where he last slept, and doorknobs constantly rattle. Something or someone tends to occupy the old ballroom as well. After being converted into lofts in 1997, a couple appeared on the rooftop. Their dancing continues to this day, with occupants of the apartment complex complaining of footsteps and loud noises coming from the roof. Then there is the tale of a woman who died in the hotel and still haunts room 904. According to legend, the woman can be heard pacing the floors and crying at night. A former employee named Charlie is blamed for a number of strange occurrences, including moving objects and turning lights on and off. But perhaps the most famous ghost of the Rice Hotel is that of former President of the United States, George H.W. Bush. President Bush stayed at the hotel several times throughout his life, and it is said that his spirit came back to haunt the building after his passing. Some people claim to have seen the ghost of President Bush walking the halls of the hotel, and others have reported hearing strange noises coming from his former suite. So if you're looking for a place to live where you may have the opportunity to rub elbows with the spirits of everyday people and celebrities alike, the Rice in Houston may have the perfect loft apartment for you. Sounds like an interesting place. All right, and now we have another interesting, we'll hop back onto the bar crawl trail here. Now this is a building with some pretty sporadic recent history. We're talking about what was the old Spaghetti Warehouse building in downtown Houston, which is today the home of a sports bar called McIntyre's. So McIntyre's sports bar upstairs, event space downstairs, but the hauntings that we're talking about, most of these stories came from when it was the old Spaghetti Warehouse. But it was in August of 2017 that Hurricane Harvey flooded the entire building and wound up closing the old Spaghetti Warehouse for good. So they chased the old Spaghetti Warehouse away, but then McIntyre's came in, renovated the space, and that is what resides there today. But while it was the Spaghetti Warehouse, while the Spaghetti Warehouse is a restaurant chain, there was a lot about the place that was unique to Houston. The restaurant was furnished with millions of dollars of antiques, including a full-size Houston Avenue trolley car, a staircase from a European castle, a chandelier from New York's Penn Station, and a grandfather clock from an English castle. The first floor was used for dining, and the upstairs was for special occasions and parties. The building was constructed by real estate developer B.A. Reisner in 1912. At that time, it housed the Diesel Bocher Company, the largest wholesale retailer of fruit and produce in the state. Houston was growing, and during this time, Commerce Avenue was lined up with rows of similar warehouses, each stocked with different goods and services. Later, the building would become home to a pharmaceutical company. It is here that the spirit of the building comes into play. One day, a young pharmacist was bringing a product down from an upper level. Feeling the weight in his hands was too heavy, he decided to take the elevator instead. However, he made a drastic mistake and tripped as the elevator was still coming up, and he plummeted to his death. Adding to the tragedy was the death of his beloved wife, who struggled with his passing for a year before succumbing to her sadness. There are actually a few spirits that inhabit the building, and it's believed that both the spirits of the pharmacist and his wife are amongst them, as witnesses claim to have seen them on the second floor. The pharmacist has been seen shuffling around, appearing to be taking care of inventory as he did in his previous life. His wife's spirit has been reported to tap guests on the shoulder and pull their hair, rearrange furniture, and leave dishes and silverware in disarray. Some who dined and worked at the spaghetti warehouse claimed to see floating objects and felt unexplained cool and clammy breezes. One waitress said that she watched a wicker basket float near the wooden staircase before settling back down on the floor. Another waitress said that when she worked upstairs, she had trouble keeping her shoelaces tied, even when she double and triple knotted them. Other employees heard voices of children near the urn cabinet. This cabinet is the kind of furniture used in orphanages that didn't have a place to bury their deceased children. Therefore, their ashes would return to the cabinet as a final resting place. Kind of a grim artifact, but an artifact was all the same, and one that came into the ownership of the spaghetti warehouse there in Houston.
What is it with spaghetti warehouses? Like, we've talked about at least 3 or 4 different spaghetti warehouses that are all haunted.
Yep, we went to the one in Vancouver.
Yeah, the one in Vancouver. There was one.
I forget which other ones we talked about. I have to look it back up, but you're right. There were other ones. Spaghetti warehouses. Well, they traditionally are housed in older buildings.
Yeah.
They like the...
And they do like antiques.
Yes, it's kind of part of the ambiance. So
they probably import a few of them.
Yeah, they could import them with some of the antiques, or in this case, they have came into an old warehouse with a tragic story behind it. But yes, spaghetti warehouses do have something going. Yeah. Anyway, so now one diner recalled a frightening experience that he had while at the restaurant. He and his wife had just sat down and put in their order for food when he started to get overwhelmed by what he described as an atmospheric pressure. Sweating and feeling nauseous, he went to the restroom where he was greeted by a heavy synthetic smell, something he could not place and something that just simply was not right. Well, in the stall, trying to gather himself, he noticed someone standing right outside his stall door, facing the stall door. No one was in the room when he entered, and he had not heard anyone enter after him. The man cleared his throat, and the shoes outside backed away, out of sight, but no one was heard exiting the restroom. Emerging from the stall, he found he was still actually quite alone and hurried back to his table. Feeling borderline panic, he ate quickly and retreated from the restaurant as fast as he could with his wife. While walking away, he couldn't help but to look back, and he was terrified to see a woman in an old-style, high-necked Victorian-era dress staring at him. Frozen at the sight, he watched as the woman backed away from the window and vanished. In another incident, a worker at the restaurant named Charlie had his own heart-stopping experience. He had long heard his co-workers talking about the hauntings of the building. They would attribute minor things like missing spice bottles to the ghosts, and on one occasion, a plate flew off a shelf and hit the general manager in the back of the head, it gave all the rank and file a chuckle because apparently this general manager was a bit of a nasty piece of work.
He was being rude.
Yeah. So
there was a correction there by the ghost. Just saying.
Charlie also commented on a smell that could not quite be explained, this one around table 12. Charlie noted that customers would regularly complain about it, and no amount of investigating could find a source. But it was one night around closing that truly terrified Charlie, even if just for a moment. He was alone in the kitchen, finishing up and getting ready for the next day, when he heard someone walking around in the hall where the bathrooms were. He didn't think anything of it at first, but then he heard the footsteps come up really fast behind him. Charlie whirled around quickly, and this lady with a crazy look in her eye was staring at him from only about a foot away. Charlie cried out, startled by the woman, but it quickly got worse as she started screaming, "Where is he? Where's my husband?" Charlie couldn't get a word in as she carried on, so he tried to turn away and call a coworker for help. But then, when he looked back, the woman had vanished. When he found a coworker and told him what he saw, they told Charlie that the last customers had left 10 minutes ago. While he never saw her again, Charlie would sometimes hear the sound of disembodied footsteps and muttering in the after hours, driving home the fact that he was never truly quite alone. The experiences of both these men, the chemical smells and the mysterious, terrifying woman, both lend some credence to the hauntings of the lab worker and his wife. With McIntyre's entry into this historic space, time will tell how the resident spirits adjust to the new atmosphere. Now, it seems that McIntyre's has actually been there for a few years now, and I wasn't able, at least not in the little bit of looking that it did, wasn't able to find any sourcing for ghost stories coming out of now McIntyre's. But it might just be a completely different atmosphere. Could have
had it blessed.
Could have been something like that. Could be that the spirits maybe are more content with the new atmosphere, or the new atmosphere may be drowning them out a little bit. Because I would imagine, like, a sports bar is going to be a little more raucous than a spaghetti warehouse restaurant. And so some of these occurrences that might be going on might be just getting stifled in the atmosphere. Might still be going on, just too subtle to be caught by the average person coming and going every day. So we'll see if any stories come from McIntyre's in the years ahead. But in the meantime, well, if you want to go ahead and have a drink at at least a haunted building once upon a time, you can go ahead and pop into McIntyre's there in Houston as well.
So Alex asked, are we familiar with the tales of haunted bathrooms in RVI?
Haunted bathrooms in RVA?
We talk about a lot of them on our tours. But I'm not sure if there's an official document. If there is, I have not seen it. I'd be curious to see it.
I don't know why we haven't created it ourselves. We should. But yes, there's several haunted bathrooms that we talk about on our tours. The spirits here in Richmond seem to like hanging out in the restrooms.
Flowing water.
Yep.
That's all I can think of. Flowing water.
It could be something like that. But I haven't heard as many tales like that in necessarily other cities. There are tales like that.
Or we just haven't asked the right person.
This is true. Might be something like that. But yes.
I mean, you throw that question up on our Paranormal Ghost Tour Company page, and I'm sure we'd get a lot.
There could be something to that.
Yeah. Just saying. All right, zoo time.
The story that we promised you, Patrick, the Haunted Zoo. So this is our last stop in Houston. Again, Houston Zoo. It opened in Herman Park in the 1920s, consisting at that point in time of just a small plot of land and a lone bison named Earl. Doesn't sound like too much of a zoo, but...
Hey, it's got to start somewhere. Earl was a start.
And it had quite the champion at that. There was a German-born lion tamer named Hans Nagel. He was the institution's first zookeeper. Nagel was an eccentric and entertaining man who would perform exciting stunts with the animals and trained many of them to put on circus-like performances for visitors. During his tenure, Nagel, a media darling whose wild antics were fodder for local newspapers, would become a well-known figure about town. Thanks to the efforts of the zookeeper, the zoo expanded quickly. By 1925, Nagel almost single-handedly acquired hundreds of animals for the new zoo. In 1926, the city of Houston awarded Nagel for heroism after he rescued a visitor from Houston's then-famous Bengal tire, L-Tex. L-Tex had lunged at a visitor, a North Dakota man named Bert Wilson, who had foolishly entered the tiger's enclosure while carrying a trained rat in his pocket. Nagel jumped into action, fatally shooting the animal and saving Wilson's life. Speaking for myself, personally, we think that Bert should have been left to L-Tex's judgment, but, well, that's our take, and it's about 100 years too late at that. So poor L-Tex suffered the consequences for the idiot Bert Wilson. Moving on. In another show of heroism, Nagel once administered critical first aid to a biology student from Sam Houston State College, who had been extracting venom from poisonous snakes when he inadvertently pricked himself with his own hypodermic needle and began exhibiting exhibiting symptoms.
There we go.
Sorry, not victims. He was a victim of his own idiocy, stabbing himself with his own needle filled with poisonous venom. Anyways. Nagel's audaciousness is evident in the stories that survive him, including the somewhat murky tale of his untimely passing. Nagel died under curious circumstances in a shooting incident labeled a jurisdictional dispute. According to Barry Scardino Bradley's Houston's Herman Park, A Century of Community, on the evening of November 17th, 1941, Nagel was patrolling the area near the zoo, his pistol holstered at his side, when he noticed teenagers in a parked car idling in a dirt road in Herman Park. Nagel hid behind a hedge and continued observing the teenagers when police officer Harold M. Warren came upon the scene and ultimately confronted Nagel. Warren exited his patrol car and asked Nagel if he wanted to return with him to the station so the pair could discuss whose business it was to patrol the park. When Warren reached to handcuff Nagel, the zookeeper pulled back and attempted to draw his gun, but the officer drew first and shot Nagel 6 times, killing him. Charged with the shooting death of the famed zookeeper, the officer was ultimately acquitted by a grand jury on grounds of self-defense. It's said that Nagel's spirit still roams the zoo and the park to this day. Some say that at night the ghost of Nagel haunts the Houston Zoo's commissary, which wasn't there when he died, where employees have reported eerie happenings and strange shadows. Word is that the commissary is not too far from the location where Nagel was killed. The activity at the commissary is not subtle. In one of the coolers, it sounds like someone is banging pots and pans together. The entity also has gotten a little too comfortable with some of the workers there, standing in doorways and watching before abruptly disappearing, and touching them on the shoulder while they are cleaning, giving the workers quite the start. Other areas are rife with heavy, dark energy, making workers steer clear of them as much as possible. This is particularly prevalent around the back door. But then there was one very odd event that left everyone scratching their head. Animal feed would be delivered on large pallets, maneuvered around with a forklift. One delivery came in and was set in the cooler overnight. But when they came in the next morning, the pallet was gone. Not the feed bags, which were still nicely stacked where they had been set down. Just the wooden pallet itself, which had disappeared from under the heavy feed bags. Just like a magic trick.
Okay, I would really want to know how that was done because, pulling the tablecloth out is difficult enough. A pallet?
Yeah. So
I'm impressed.
Yeah. So for all of the events that happen at the Houston Zoo, most fingers come back pointing at Nagel. As mischievous as he can be, it seems that he intends to keep looking after the zoo that he helped found over a century ago. So, Patrick, I will apologize if you got your hopes up for a animal ghost. Sorry.
Zookeeper ghost.
Zookeeper ghost. But, yes. Go ahead and visit the Haunted Houston Zoo.
And Dark Hollow Paranormal just found us, and they want to have a haunted dinner.
Okay, cool.
So I told them our public ones, we just had our last one for right now that we have on the books, but
yeah,
we can do private.
Yeah, we'll chat. Always happy to chat.
We always love doing a ghost dinner.
Yep, haunted dinners. We mainly do them, at least we offer them publicly in the winter months because
it's cold.
It's cooler. People are looking for something to do inside.
And it's a great time to just have people together and talk and eat food. So, yes. But, doesn't mean we won't throw one on the books later on.
Yep. So, yeah, we can chat.
Yeah.
We can chat.
So, all right, so I found a ghost road in Texas.
You gonna give this a shot or you want me to?
I'm going to try, but be ready to jump in.
Okay.
Because I'm really tired of not talking.
All right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, we have that.
All right, so we're going to Saratoga, Texas. I get to say it that way because I come from Saratoga, just not Texas.
Different Saratoga.
Hey, I come from the racing one. Anyway, this is in the northeast of Houston, on the fringes of the Big Thicket National Preserve. We have a spooky stretch of road with a haunting reputation. Old Bragg Road runs through the heart of the Big Thicket, and it originally served as a railroad bed for the Santa Fe branch line from Bragg Station to the nearby community of Saratoga. The rails were laid in 1901 and pulled up in 1934, but the bed remained well used in the years thereafter. It's here that we have the tales of the Big Thicket Light. It was first reported when the rails were still down, but it wasn't until 1960 when the light started to get some real notoriety. That summer, Archer Fullingham, editor and publisher of the Kuntz,
I think it's just Kuntz.
News, began running front-page stories speculating on the nature of this light. The stories were pricked up and carried into metropolitan newspapers in Texas and elsewhere, and the light seekers started to visit Bragg Road in droves. Reports of the Bragg light often focused on two different lights that tend to appear. The first one is a sphere, often described by witnesses as a sharply defined and bluish-white, about the size of a basketball. Another appears to be a smaller spot amid a fog bank. Some have also described the Bragg light as moving slowly towards those who see it, and there have also been numerous scientific and ghostly tales crafted about the phenomenon since it was first reported sighting in the early 1900s. The lights have been rationalized as a reflection of car lights going to Saratoga, patches of low-grade gas, a reflection of a foxfire or swamp fire, or the figment of hysterical imagination, because we're just going to cover it all. Others, those who lean into the spirited side relate the light to numerous chapters of local history. Some think that the light indicates a spot where golden treasure was buried by the Spanish conquistadors, but they failed to, of course, return for their catch, and at least they were failed to return in life. Probably the afterlife, they have not. Others think that it's a remnant from the old Kaiser burnout, a Civil War era event where a fire was set by a Confederate military captain to flush out Confederate draft dodgers, also known as Jayhawkers, and that they were hiding in the thicket. Some take it a step further to say the light is the spirit of a man who was shot during the burnout.
And don't confuse the Jayhawkers with the Kansas Jayhawks.
They'll be upset.
Not the same thing.
No.
I wouldn't say they'd be upset, not necessarily, but they're not the same thing. Anyways.
Then there's the theory that speaks of a railroad man who was decapitated in a train wreck on this part of the Saratoga line, and they found his body but never could find the head. That's pretty common when people see lights around an old train line era. The body continues to roam up and down the right-of-way, and he wanders the old railroad bed to this day, bearing a light to search for his long-lost head. Again, common theme.
But wait, there's more.
There's another lost spirit. Some point to a night hunter that became lost in the depths of the Big Thicket, carrying a fry pan to try to light his way.
A fire pan.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, fry pan, I get it. But
fire pan,
which admittedly, I should have looked it up. I'm not sure what a fire pan is. Is it just like
is it like a dark light or a...
I don't know, but they call it a fire pan.
Okay.
We digress.
Anyway, if Patrick could look that up for us, that'd be awesome. Anyway, perhaps the light is his specter, still wandering, never been able to stop to rest. He's futilely searching for a way out of the mud and the briars. Darker still is the theory that surrounds the Mexican cemetery. This tells of a crew of Mexicans who were hired to help cut the right-of-way and lay the tracks. Rumor has it that the foreman of the road gang, rather than pay their wages, killed them all, kept the money, and they were hurriedly interred in the dense woods nearby, from whence came the restless souls, clouded in ghostly light to haunt the piece of ground that cost them their lives. And finally, there's the story of a man who sold his farm and parted with everything that he couldn't pack in a suitcase to work on the railroad. He was devoted to the line and became a brakeman on the Saratoga when the Santa Fe began to cut down on its runs. He found himself without a job or prospects. He died soon after, and his lonesome and troubled spirit still walks the railroad bed with its brakeman's lantern, looking for the life that he left behind. Regardless of the source of the Big Thicket Light, it's one of the most storied phenomenons in East Texas.
Yeah. So I did notice that we probably could have called this entire episode the Haunted East Texas.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not.
Texas is big, and there's a lot there.
There is, but yeah, just about all the stories tonight came from like East Texas. Just a coincidence, but it's probably not the last time we're going to talk about Texas.
Oh no, there's a whole other script started.
Yep. So anyways, we're sticking in East Texas. We're just moving a little further north, hugging the border with Louisiana, where we have the city of Jefferson, and it is home to a place known as the Grove. This private home gained its name from the grove of pecan trees in which it was built. It's also known as the Stilly Young House, named for the builder of the home and its longest tenured residents. The house was built in 1861 for Frank and Minerva Stilly as a gift from Minerva's father. Their family inhabited the home for about 20 years when Minerva died. In 1882, the grove was sold to a man named T.C. Burke. He moved his family in, and they moved right back out, with the only explanation being that they couldn't live in that house.
That was underlined, by the way, in the original script that I found.
The family only lived there for a couple of months. It was then purchased by Charlie and Daphne Young, a formerly enslaved couple who met in Jefferson when they were children. The Young family occupied the home until the last Young heir died in 1983. The house, then in slight disrepair, changed ownership a few more times until it was purchased by Mitchell and Tammy Whittington. Mitchell is an author specializing in historic and haunting publications. The Whittingtons share the same love of the home as the former owners, whom they believe still inhabit the home, including Minerva and Charlie. Mitchell gives tours of the home, sharing its rich history on the weekends. Visitors have experienced seeing a lady in a white dress strolling the property, especially on the front porch. And
don't mind Vincent, he's just crashing through Ben.
And then she disappears into a wall. Then there is a playful entity who haunts the room adjoining the once removed kitchen from the rest of the home. The ghost stories of the Grove go back through many owners. Miss Louise Young, who lived in the house from the early 1900s until her death in the 1980s, used to tell her friends about the haints that occupied the house with her. Somewhere along the way, though, the fun little ghost stories took a dark turn. In her later years, she was terrified of the spirits. She had a security light installed in the garden because she would see people outside walking around who disappeared when she turned on the porch light. She called the police several times a week in her later years to report that someone was in the house with her, but the officers never found anyone else there. Finally, she moved into just a few rooms in the house, leaving the rest of the place to deteriorate. The home would be purchased by a family named the Groves in 1983. Now, the name is just a coincidence, and they were able to start restoring the house. Unfortunately, they were never able to enjoy it as Colonel Groves fell ill, and they were forced to sell before they could move in. It then came into the ownership of Patrick Hopkins, who finished the restoration and opened the Grove as a restaurant. It was met with rave reviews and featured in a variety of special events in its years of operation. After Hopkins decided to close the restaurant, the Grove would pass to the Whittingtons, who have lived there as private residents ever since, sometimes again opening their doors to share the home's ghost stories with paranormal enthusiasts. Among the stories that you might expect to hear at the Grove, there is a tendency for sudden odors like the scent of a woman's perfume or the smell of body odor to permeate the space and disappear just as abruptly. During its restaurant years, a waitress walked out of the kitchen into the hallway and was attacked by a black and white dog that knocked her to the ground. After quickly regaining her composure, she ran back into the kitchen, screaming for help. Patrick Hopkins searched the building and yard, and there was no dog to be found. It had simply vanished. During a candlelight tour, a couple visiting from Dallas took a picture of the Christmas lights on the neighbor's house to the east of the grove. Their photo showed the Christmas lights in the foreground, and in the background was a lady in a high-collared, puff-sleeved white dress surrounded by a ring of smoke. Then in another occurrence, while rehearsing a dinner theater, a light technician was on the front porch looking through the window. Suddenly, she felt someone staring at her, so she quickly glanced to the right. Standing on the east side of the house by the porch was, again, the lady in white, who began walking behind the east side of the house. Chasing the eerie-looking woman, the girl turned the corner of the house, and the woman had vanished. At one time, there was a door on that side of the house leading into what was known as the Blue Room. On that same rehearsal night, the actress portraying the heroine came down the stairs. When she reached the bottom step, she glanced to her right and saw a person in costume she was not familiar with, standing in the corner. When she began to ask the lady something, the lady just vanished. Wet footprints have also appeared in the middle of the hallway, even though it wasn't raining outside and there were no plumbing leaks. Drops of water have been found on the staircase and on one particular mirror in the house, all when the atmosphere was perfectly dry. Then there is a shadow figure that has been seen in the garden many times, striding quickly across it or simply just hanging around. And then the lights in the house will go on and off, and the chandeliers have swayed, even though there is an absence of moving air in the room. So if you want a chance to stop at this haunted location, tours are available on Saturdays and Sundays with an advance reservation. Just look up The Grove in Jefferson, Texas for more information.
All right, so Patrick found it. It's for a fire pan.
Okay.
It's a pan for holding or conveying fire. Use of the firebrand reduces the impact to the ground, the vegetation, and the rocks. So I looked up an image of it, and it literally looks like a mini stove that's used for backpacking.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Now, these are modern ones that I'm looking at, so I'm assuming the older ones would have been much smaller.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to carry it around and try to use it for light.
Yeah, they probably would have had something like that.
It almost looks like a
fire starter, coal starter or something. Yeah.
Interesting.
But thank you for that, Patrick.
Oh boy.
Uh-oh.
Is Vincent stuck? No, not stuck.
He's good.
Okay.
He's good.
All right.
Where?
We are at the Catfish Plantation.
Where am I? That's Gilpin Spring.
So this is
Here we are. Okay, I can do this one. It's short.
Pronounce it. I think it's Waxahachie.
Bless you. All right, so this is south of Dallas, Fort Worth, and it's a building that until recently was one of the most haunted restaurants in Texas, if not the country. Catfish Plantation Restaurant unfortunately shut its doors in 2022, but for many years people came here for the fried catfish with a side of ghostly encounters. The former home of the Catfish Plantation Restaurant is an 1895 gingerbread-type Victorian house. It was built by a farmer named Anderson and was purchased in 1984 by the Bakers, who would go on to open the restaurant. In front of the restaurant is a large bay window that looks down the street that goes through the main part of the downtown, whatever he said.
Waxahachie.
There is a large front porch and a big front yard enclosed by a white picket fence. The house was a private residence until 1970, and it was then used as a doctor's office, after which it became the home of several restaurants before Tom and Melissa Baker bought it. In 2007, the Bakers sold the restaurant to the Landis family, who invited the Association for the Study of Unexplained Phenomenon to investigate the locale. They came away with evidence indicating that there are several spirits, which they deemed to be friendly and positive.
Which is nice for a change. A lot of places will come in and they want to go ahead and say, ooh, evil spirits.
No, these guys are like, no, these guys are cool.
Yeah, we're cool.
So, a sign was put up at the entrance of the restaurant saying, if you have a ghostly experience, please tell us. There was a wide cast of characters that may haunt the restaurant, one being Elizabeth, who was an unfortunate woman that was murdered in the house in the early 1920s on her wedding day by an ex-lover. She had a bad day. She still resides in the building to this day and often is found in the bathroom. Alex, you want to tell me bathrooms? But has also been known to look out the windows and occasionally burst through the doors.
It's funny that we're talking about friendly and positive experiences, and that's the very, very first spirit out of the gate.
She's in the bathroom with you. She's going to help you through it. Hold your hair, maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying, if she's friendly, she will hold your hair. I hope you don't drink that much there. Because that's not a good idea. Haunted locations, that much to drink, not a good idea. Then there's Will, former owner during the Great Depression that died on in the building from a sickness, and he too still decided to stick around. Will can be seen on the front porch. I just realized I did not go back there. There we go. And he is seen in his overalls tending to touch the legs of women patrons. In 1970, the last person to own it as a private residence was Caroline, and she passed away in the building from old age. She had a very set way, and she continued to share that with the restaurant's employees. She loved cooking, so she's hanging out in the kitchen. She also hates alcohol, so wine glasses needed to be replaced frequently. And they would meet an inexplicable and shattering fate.
Sorry, I was trained with wordplay there. Sorry.
You know we're halfway through our drinks at this point.
I was just being... Okay, carry on.
I'm just saying.
I know.
I poured a little heavy tonight.
Yes.
It was a bad... Okay, let's try again. It was so bad that the staff had to keep wine glasses behind a glass and an armoire, lock, and key to keep Caroline from flinging them across the room. Now, Caroline also likes to brew coffee herself and rearrange the supplies to her liking. She can brew coffee all she wants.
Sounds like you.
I am all for a ghost brewing me coffee, and if they learn to run the vacuum cleaner, I'm even more for it.
Brewing coffee, sorting spices. It's you.
Is that my future? I decided I was not going to haunt the coffee shop. I was going to haunt the tavern.
Okay. Who says you can't do both? We know Poe gets around.
If I'm going to get around, I'm going to go to places I want to go to.
You don't want to go to the coffee shop?
I'm not saying I don't, but I'm going to go to the West and a few other places.
Okay, fair.
I'm just saying.
Fair. Yeah, you poured heavy tonight.
I did. I needed it.
Cheers.
I am so sick of being sick.
It's been a while since we truly got tipsy on this.
I want to do it for Ireland. I've got some doozies in that one.
We should. You think they're actually watching for the stories?
Please don't make me spit out my hot toddy. Anyway, while the building still remains empty to this day, if you want to go open a restaurant in Texas, this might be the place for you. If you come in, you start new with the restaurant, just beware, it is a haunted space, and we hope the resident spirits aren't too lonely waiting for the next incoming whatever.
Sure. So, yeah, I did double check. Place is unfortunately still vacant right now. Do I want to know?
It's not moving, so... The cats found the stink bug earlier, so we're a little wary whenever we see the cats looking at the floor.
It looks like a fuzzball.
Okay.
Anyways. All right.
All right, I'm going to read all these comments that just popped up.
Should I pause and wait? Oh, sorry for shining a light in y'all's faces.
All right. Yeah, there were kitty shenanigans, and everybody was commenting about that. Roberta, oh, my sister lives near Dallas. I'll have to ask her if she's been there. Please report back and let us know.
This next location is actually just outside of Dallas Fort Worth as well.
Patrick says yes, please get drunk. It's more fun.
Noted. Mission accepted. But yeah.
Alex says if my last name was Grove, I'd go purchase it. Okay, we're caught up.
All right. So we're not going too far. So Waxahachie, the place where we had the catfish plantation, that was south of Dallas-Fort Worth. This next location is north of Dallas-Fort Worth in a city called Corinth. So it's about 3.5 miles from Corinth. But anyways, once stood a small village named Alton, which for a decade served as Denton County seat. When Denton County was formed in 1846, the first pioneers chose a place along Pecan Creek for the first county seat and named it Pinckneyville in honor of Texas's first governor, James Pinckney Henderson. But Pinckneyville would only hold the title for 2 years and never really developed into a town. Finally, water shortages forced the county seat to move to a new site in June of 1848. Located less than a mile from present-day Corinth, the new town site was called Alton on a high ridge between Pecan Creek and Hickory Creek. Though commissioners were appointed and directed to lay out a town and sell lots, no records were ever filed and no public buildings were ever created. In fact, the only residence that existed was that of a man named W.C. Baines, who established a farmstead long before the designation of the new county seat. Most of the time, county business was held at the Baines residence under the shades of the shade trees in his yard. However, the location of the second county seat also proved to be unfavorable due to a lack of potable water, and the state legislature soon directed that the site be moved again. The third county seat location was designated in November of 1850, about 5 miles southwest of present-day Corinth on Hickory Creek. The new site retained the name Alton and submitted an application for a post office. This location did grow, and before long it boasted a hotel and 2 stores. By 1856, the small town boasted several homes, a blacksmith shop, 3 stores, a school, a saloon, a hotel, 2 doctors, and several lawyers, because, well...
Yeah, lawyers.
The Hickory Creek Baptist Church, which continues to stand, was organized in 1855. Though the fledgling town had begun to grow, the location of the county seat was still unsatisfactory for the majority of Denton County residents, who soon petitioned for yet another county seat, one that was more centrally located and, again, one with better water. Put to a vote in November of 1856, the county seat was moved again to Denton. As a result, Alton began to die as many of its businesses moved to the new county seat. Finally, in May 1859, the post office closed its doors forever. There is little remaining of the old town site today, except for the Hickory Creek Baptist Church and the old Alton Cemetery, which contains graves that date back to 1852. Years later, in 1884, long after Alton had died, an iron through truss bridge was built over Hickory Creek on Copper Canyon Road, south of the old town site. The 145-foot-long bridge would serve area travelers for more than a century. Called the Old Alton Bridge, sometimes the Argyle Bridge, it is better known amongst locals as Goatman's Bridge. It was first built to carry horses, but will later carry vehicles across the creek. It continued to be used until about 2001, when it was replaced with a brick and steel bridge and concrete and steel bridge and a new road, which straightened out a sharp curve. Before the new bridge was built, motorists were required to honk their horns on the one-lane bridge to let travelers know that they were coming. The bridge was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in July of 1988 and closed to vehicle traffic in 2001. Today it is only open to pedestrians. Not only is the Old Alton Bridge a picturesque historic site, but it is also said to be haunted by the Goat Man, hence the nickname of the bridge.
Okay, first of all, let me just point this out. Not a cryptid.
No. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Not a cryptid, but we're getting there. So, half a century after the bridge was built, an African-American man named Oscar Washburn settled with his family near the bridge. Earning his living raising goats, he was soon called the Goat Man by the locals. An honest businessman, his goat-raising business was a success. But unfortunately, some did not welcome a successful black man within their midst. When Washburn posted a sign on the bridge that advertised, "This way to the Goat Man," it angered local Klansmen. Yes, those Klansmen. On a dark night in August 1938, these hateful men crossed the bridge, then burst into Washburn's home and drug him from his family onto the bridge. The Klansmen then fitted a noose over his head and pushed him over the side of the bridge. However, when they looked over to make sure he was dead, they could only see the rope. Washburn was gone and was never seen again. The hateful Klansman then went back to his home and, killed the rest of his family. Ever since that fateful day, several strange things have reportedly occurred on and around the bridge. Many believe that the Goat Man haunts the overpass and the nearby woods. The tale continues that when travelers crossed the bridge at night with their headlights off, they would meet the Goat Man on the other side. These tales are obviously old, as the bridge has been closed to vehicle traffic for a while. Several other reports tell of numerous abandoned cars that have been found near the bridge, with their occupants missing. Others report seeing a ghostly man herding goats over the bridge, while others say they have seen an apparition staring at them, holding a goat head under each arm. Stranger stories even include people having seen a creature that resembles a half goat, half man. More tales of strange noises have also been described, including the sounds of horses' hoofs beating on the bridge, splashing in the creek below, maniacal laughter, and inhuman-like growling coming from the surrounding woods. Visitors sometimes tell of seeing mysterious lights in the area, car doors locking and unlocking of their own accord, and numerous vehicle breakdowns while near the old viaduct. So if you chance a visit to this site, be wary of the Goat Man's mood and keep your car keys close at hand.
Wonder if there's any way you can offer him something.
I don't know. I would say he deserves it.
Yeah, he does.
Poor guy. Poor his family.
Yeah, a rest in peace offering I think would be nice for him.
Yeah. It was certainly very...
I debated about putting this one in there because of how he died.
It was completely unjustifiable,
Yeah.
but I mean...
And unfortunately it is a dark historical.
Yeah, very dark historical, but I think at the same time, as dark as it is a story worth being shared because, well,
It should not be forgotten.
No, should not be forgotten at all. Don't get a chance to learn from it otherwise.
Yep. So.
Am I carrying on?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't trust myself. Right
That's
now.
fine. All right.
And,
So.
We've got 3. It's pile on kitty time.
Yeah. All right. So we are moving south, kind of the deserts of southern Texas. This story is first reported back in the 1850s. El Muerto. This is known as El Muerto is known across the deserts of Texas as a headless horseman donning the clothing of a Mexican cowboy speckled with arrows and bullet wounds, with his sombrero-topped head tied to the side of his saddle. Now, full disclosure, I say Mexican cowboy because there is a Spanish-like word for cowboy, which I didn't want to try and pronounce and butcher. So the English translation is cowboy. I apologize if I don't mean to be offensive. But anyways, I did not trust myself to try and pronounce the Spanish name for it. All right, moving on. Now, according to the Legislative Reference Library of Texas, the story of the Lone Star State's Headless Horseman has its roots in historical truth, with its creation in part credited to William Bigfoot Wallace and the Texas Rangers. Around the time of the tale of El Muerto, the state of Texas had an ongoing dispute with Mexico over whether the official border between the two would be recognized as the Nueces River or, further south, the Rio Grande. Even after Texas was officially annexed into the U.S. and the Mexican-American War, and thus the Texas border was officially settled, the Texas Rangers reported their struggle against Mexican cattle rustlers and thieves in the area would last about another 30 years. This included a time in 1850 when Wallace and other Texas Rangers, such as Creed Taylor, were tracking a wanted cattle rustler simply known as Vidal. Records show that Vidal was eventually caught by the Texas Rangers after stealing a herd of livestock that included prized Mustangs belonging to Taylor, who had a ranch west of San Antonio. When Vidal's camp of outlaws was found by the Texas Rangers, Wallace decapitated Vidal as a warning to other thieves, mounting his corpse on a Mustang, strapped his still sombreroed head to the saddle horn, and watched as the Mustang broke away and ran into the night. Shortly thereafter, stories began to spread about the headless rider seen in the Wild Horse Desert region. Even after a posse of ranchers finally captured the horse and recovered the dry corpse of Vidal, the legend remained, and travelers and locals alike continued to see the specter wandering the vast expanses of the southern plains. In modern day, those who report seeing the headless horseman still view him as an omen of misfortune and death.
The things you don't hear about the Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
At least not through the old TV show.
Nope. Now, El Muerto isn't the only harbinger in Texas lore. Folklore and Mexican-American communities speak of La Luchuza, translated literally to barn owl from Spanish, as a shape-shifting creature appearing often as a barn owl with a human face who brings misfortune to those who see her and waits in the trees to swoop down and feed upon unsuspecting passers-by. Most versions of the origins and motivations of La Luchuza follow the story of a woman accused of being a witch and murdered by her community, or otherwise betrayed, and returns for revenge in the form of a shape-shifting owl. However, though the myth has existed in some form for a number of decades, it became a well-known legend of coastal South Texas when it was linked to El Pajayo Gigante, or the Big Bird of Robstown in the 1970s. In 1975, the Corpus Christi Caller-Times reported that witnesses had seen a huge monster bird swooping down at them when walking along the county roads, claiming that the creature was between 2 and 6 feet large and had the face of a human. Now, between 2 and 6 feet is quite the range.
It is a very large range.
I take some minor exception with this massive range. I mean, was it tiny?
Was it 2 or
was it big? I don't know. Anyways, in the coming weeks, there were sightings reported in nearby communities that contributed to a wave of hysteria. At the time of the panic, the local magazine La Lomita published theories about what the bird could be that ranged from the supernatural to the political, and La Chuza also appeared as a villain in the comic book Relampago. The series was credited as featuring the first Mexican-American superhero. Many interpretations of La Chuza stories are used as cautionary tales against misbehavior or impulsive decisions. However, particularly in more modern versions of the myth, storytellers also align La Chuza as a figure of vengeance or vigilante justice after being unjustly targeted by her neighbors.
We thought we would include the comic book connection because GalaxyCon is coming up.
Yes. And my apologies if I butchered any of those pronunciations at the end. For some reason, we thought it was a great idea to put the difficult to pronounce stuff at the end of the script after we've been drinking and after we've been talking for about an hour, which...
I don't think about those things when I write these scripts.
Well, now I will when I'm editing moving forward, until I forget, and we'll wind up doing this all again. Cheers.
Yes. Alcohol. I shouldn't be doing this on antibiotics, but right now, I really don't care. I'm taking Irish medicine.
We hope that you enjoyed the show. We enjoyed the show.
Mhm.
We enjoyed our beverages. The cats seem to enjoy the show. Isn't that right, Una?
That was a fun script to actually research and dive into. And yes, I have a Texas part 2.
Absolutely.
Because there was so much.
We didn't even touch on like West Texas.
As I said, Texas is huge.
Texas is huge.
And I didn't even include all the Houston stories. We could have done a Houston script alone.
Yes, we could have. And I know that there are definitely a lot of stories in El Paso.
Oh yeah.
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 So
as I said, I just scratched the surface.
at some point there will be a Texas part 2.
Yeah.
But in the meantime,
But we are going to have Ireland part 4.
yes.
And then after that, we're going to have libraries part 2.
Yes, because libraries.
Because libraries. And then I haven't figured out past that because, yeah, lots of stuff going on this month. We need to edit our scripts for GalaxyCon.
Yes, we do. But because our first GalaxyCon panel
It's Thursday night.
is 17 days away.
Yep.
17 days.
17 days.
Vampires. Creatures of the night.
I had to because there's going to be Twilight cast there, so I figured vampires were appropriate.
So,
Yeah.
we got our 3 panels that we're looking forward to. We're looking forward to seeing a whole lot of people at our vendor table there over that weekend. But before we even get there, we have a vendor table at the Churchill Irish Festival this weekend again, Saturday and Sunday. Come on by, visit, say hi, have a pint. We bring $5 for a donation.
Yes.
That is the not for us, of course. It is the donation to
Get into the festival and
get into the
enjoy
festival.
everything.
And it is a donation. So we recommend you go ahead and bring that along.
Yep. And of course, they will have credit card available to take that donation as well. But cash is always king at any of these festivals for tips, etc.
Yep.
Vendors.
Yeah. But we would love to see you there because it is a great time.
It is.
Fantastic music.
And they do have the schedule posted on their website and their Facebook page. So if you want to check out what bands are coming, I think they said they had like 65 or 67 musicians.
Oh, that was
coming.
one band. There was one band coming up from Chesterfield that has that individual band has over 60 musicians.
Oh, that's what that was. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So big band here.
Yeah, there'll be the big band, the one big band, and they'll have all kinds of other Irish music. There will be pipers, of course, from at times. There will be Irish dance.
Yep. And if you're a runner, there's the 5K Hilltopper on Sunday morning.
Which, I don't think it's too late to sign up for that. But the Hilltopper 5K, I've done it a couple of times. It's a really fun race. And if you...
We'll be out there to cheer for you.
Yep.
First thing in the morning.
Yep. So if you want to go ahead and partake in that, recommend signing up. But again, Churchill Irish Festival.
Yes.
This Friday, Saturday. So that's the next big thing coming up for us. And again, we got tours going on. So come on out, join us for a tour. And thank you for watching tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for putting up with us.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I hopefully will be well soon.
Hopefully. Yes, hopefully.
We're both over this.
All right. Well, we will go ahead. We will bid you a good night. Thank you again for watching, and hope to see you back here in a couple of weeks at the very least. But good night, y'all.
Good night.
Sorry,